We're a great assistant, but you don't have the vision for this level. Zane's words, spoken in a whiskey-scented whisper beside the cheese platter at his gallery opening. The sound of the art world chatter around us, the clinking glasses, the self-important laughter, seemed to warp and muffle, like I was suddenly underwater. I watched the condescending pity in his eyes, a practiced expression I'd soon learn he reserved for people he was done using. I just nodded, my response a quiet murmur he barely heard. Of course, you're right. Our story began in a university darkroom, the acrid smell of fixer hanging in the air like a promise. Zane was the charismatic one, the one who could talk his way into any social circle. I was the technician, the one who understood light, who spent hours perfecting a single print. We were supposed to be a team. I remember one night, sharing a cold pizza under the red glow of the safe light, sketching out the concept for a photo series we called Aperture, an exploration of forgotten industrial spaces. His energy was infectious. A red flag I ignored, the time he submitted our joint midterm project with only his name on it. He'd apologized so profusely, blaming a clerical error, and I, eager to believe in our partnership, had let it go. I thought his ambition was the engine that would drive us both to success. I never realized it was a parasite and I was the host. The first 2 years were a blur of creative energy. We drove through the Rust Belt in my beat-up Subaru, funded by my freelance graphic design work. We spent weeks in Gary, Indiana, and broke into abandoned factories in Detroit, me with my vintage Leica M6, him with his notebook, directing. We brainstormed over cheap beer at a dive bar in Cleveland called the Salty Dog. He was the face, I was the eye. I rationalized the imbalance. It was handling the networking, the schmoozing, while I did the real work, the shooting, the editing, the endless hours in Lightroom until my vision blurred. My savings account dwindled by over $18,000, paying for film, travel, and exhibition prints. His Instagram, meanwhile, was a curated gallery of him shaking hands with influential people. The discovery was banal, almost insulting in its simplicity. He'd left his laptop open on our shared studio table to take a call. An email notification popped up on the screen. The subject line read, NEA Grant Confirmation Project Aperture. The recipient, Zane Vance, sole creator. My heart didn't just sink, it felt like it dissolved. I clicked open the email. There it was, a $75,000 grant awarded to him based on a portfolio of 21 images. My images. That night the quiet investigation began. For 3 weeks I was a ghost in my own life. I didn't use keyloggers or hacks. I just organized what was already mine. I compiled the original raw digital files, their metadata stamped with the dates and times I'd taken them. I dug up the credit card statements that showed every gas station, motel, and equipment rental purchase. I found the original grant application in the trash folder of our shared Google Drive. He had used my photos, my artist statement, and forged a narrative that erased me completely. The betrayal wasn't just the money. He'd used the grant to secure the gallery show and a book deal with a prestigious art publisher. He was building an empire on my foundations, and then trying to convince me I was lucky to get a tour of the lobby. The breaking point was that gallery opening. Surrounded by our mutual friends and old professors, he paraded my work as his own. I tried to talk to him, to find some sliver of the person I thought I knew. He pulled me behind a temporary wall, his smile tight and false. Look, this is my moment, he said, his voice low and urgent. You're a great assistant, really, but you don't have the vision for this level. Let's not make a scene. Be happy for me. It's what a real friend would do. The word hung in the air between us. Assistant. Our old professor, Dr. Monroe, glanced over, a flicker of confusion on her face. A prominent critic I admired, Sylvia Vance, saw the look on my face and turned away, embarrassed for me. The ambient noise of the room faded to a dull roar. In that frozen moment, the plan didn't just start. It was born fully formed, cold and precise. As he walked away, my eyes landed on the artist's photo on the wall, a large, glossy print of Zane, looking pensive, holding my Leica. I knew the camera intimately, right down to the ugly, distinctive scratch on the lens housing from when I dropped it in a factory in Flint. He wasn't just stealing my work. He was using my own tools as props in his fiction. My first call was to Vanessa Rodriguez, an intellectual property lawyer whose name I got from a friend. She was sharp, wearing a steel gray suit, and didn't waste time with sympathy. He didn't just steal your work, she said after reviewing my files. He committed wire fraud. Using your assets to obtain federal funds is a serious crime. My remaining savings vanished to pay her retainer. The next 2 months were a meticulous, draining process of organizing evidence into a secure Dropbox. 114 dated raw files, 87 financial receipts totaling $18,450, transcripts of 23 text message threads from 2021, where I first outlined the aperture concept, and a sworn affidavit from Dr. Monroe confirming our collaborative origins. The close call came a month before the end. Zane called me, his voice oozing with a practiced sincerity. He said he'd been thinking that he wanted to offer me an official assistant photographer credit in the book. It was a baited trap, a way to get me to legally accept a subordinate role. Vanessa had warned me this might happen. My hands trembled as I recited the line she'd given me. All future communication needs to go through my legal representative. The silence on his end was long and cold. He knew something was wrong. An ironic coincidence gave us leverage. The National Endowment for the Arts was undergoing a random audit program that year. When Vanessa filed the official complaint, his file was flagged immediately. We had them. Setting for the end was perfect. The keynote panel at the Denver Arts Symposium, the city's biggest creative conference. The theme was the future of vision. Zane was the star speaker. The room was packed, the stage lights bright. I waited for the audience Q&A when the microphone came to me. My voice was steady. This is a question for Mr. Vance about artistic integrity. He smiled, basking in the spotlight, ready for a fawning question. When applying for the NEA grant for Aperture, I asked, did you disclose that the portfolio images, the core concept, and over $18,000 in initial funding were provided by your creative partner, whom you then misrepresented as a non-contributing assistant? His smile faltered. He started to bluster about creative partnerships being complex. The moderator tried to intervene, but it was too late. Vanessa, seated in the front row, stood up. She calmly introduced herself as my counsel and informed the moderator that a formal complaint of wire fraud and copyright infringement had been accepted for investigation by the NEA's Office of the Inspector General. A wave of murmurs rippled through the auditorium. Then came the final visual blow. On the massive screen behind Zane's head, I had the tech crew project a single image, the photo from his gallery wall, of him holding my Leica. Beside it, we projected a high-resolution scan of my original bill of sale for the camera, with the serial number circled in red, a perfect match. Zane turned and stared, his face draining of all color. Microphone picked up the sound of his sharp, ragged breath. The moderator, flustered, asked Mr. Vance, do you have a response? He just stood there, mute, a deer in the glare of 1,000 headlights. I spoke one last time into my own microphone before handing it off. No, I don't suppose he does. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. The symposium was a bonfire of gossip. Twitter and the art blogs had the story within an hour. The gallery issued a press release and pulled the show by morning. The publisher invoked their morals clause and terminated his book contract, suing him to reclaim the advance. I ignored 47 calls from Zane and his parents. In the end, there was no dramatic courtroom battle. Faced with a federal investigation, Zane crumbled. Vanessa negotiated a settlement. The NEA demanded full repayment of the $75,000 grant plus penalties. I received a payment of $125,000 for damages, my initial investment, and legal fees. Most importantly, the settlement legally affirmed my sole authorship and ownership of the Aperture collection. 6 months later, a friend sent me a screenshot. It was Zane's new professional website. He was a residential real estate photographer in Arizona. The photo showed him standing on a manicured lawn in front of a beige stucco house, holding a generic DSLR, his face a mask of forced professionalism. The visionary was gone. All that was left was a man paid to make empty rooms look appealing. I'm in my new studio now. It's smaller than the one we shared, but it's all mine. The light that streams through the window feels clean, uncomplicated. I'm working on a new series, something quiet and entirely my own. My new assistant, a bright young photographer named Maya, peers over my shoulder at a contact sheet. She asks me where the idea came from. I smile, the first truly light one in years, and tell her it was a gift from the universe I was lucky enough to catch.